There is a specific visceral sensation that hits you the moment you realize you are being misunderstood. It starts in the chest, tightening a spark of heat. Your pulse quickens. The brain floods with data facts and counter-arguments. You know with absolute certainty that you are right and they are wrong. You feel the overwhelming urge to correct the record, to lay out the evidence, to dissect their logic until they have no choice but to nod and say, "I see it now. You were right." But here is the hard truth that most people spend a lifetime fighting against. That moment never comes. The courtroom you have built in your mind exists only for you. The other person is not listening to your evidence. They are listening to their own ego screaming for survival. We are taught from a young age that the truth is a weapon. We are taught that if we are smart enough, articulate enough, and loud enough, we can force the world to align with reality. But there is a different kind of intelligence, a quieter, darker, and more potent strain that understands a paradox. Sometimes the only way to win is to lose. There are people walking among us who seem to fold easily in conversation. They nod when they shouldn't. They accept blame that isn't theirs. They let incorrect statements hang in the air uncorrected. You might mistake them for cowards. You might think they are unintelligent, but you would be wrong. They are practicing one of the oldest and most difficult disciplines of the human mind. They are pretending to lose because they have realized that the prize for winning the argument is a prize they no longer want. Let us strip away the modern veneer of social media debates and workplace politics. At its core, an argument is rarely a transfer of information. It is a transfer of emotion. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, spoke of the concept of proheresis, the moral purpose, or the faculty of choice. It is the only thing that is truly ours. Everything else, our reputation, our property, and yes, the opinions of others, belongs to the storm outside. When you engage in a heated argument to prove your intelligence or your innocence, you have effectively handed the keys to your proheresis over to the other person. You are saying, "My peace of mind is now dependent on your understanding of me." This is a dangerous vulnerability. The smart person described here isn't necessarily a genius in the IQ sense. They are simply someone who has awakened to the economic reality of their own energy. They have looked at the cost of being right, the adrenaline spikes, the wasted hours of mental looping, the strained relationships, and they have decided the price is too high. They have adopted a strategy that looks like defeat from the outside, but feels like liberation on the inside. They have stopped trying to terraform the minds of others and have retreated into the fortress of their own judgment. Why do we argue? If we are honest, brutally honest, it is rarely to educate the other person. It is to validate ourselves. Deep in the subconscious, there is a fragile belief that says, if I can make them agree with me, then I am real. If I can defeat their logic, I am safe. This is the illusion of the courtroom. We believe that if we present the perfect closing statement, the judge will bang the gavel, and we will be vindicated. But in social interaction, there is no judge. There is no gavel. There is only the other person who is just as terrified of being wrong as you are. When you pretend to lose, when you say, "You might be right," or "I hadn't thought of it that way," and let the subject drop, you're dismantling the courtroom. You're turning off the lights and walking out of the building. This is not submission. It is a refusal to participate in a trial where the verdict is rigged. By refusing to defend yourself against an absurdity, you rob the absurdity of its power. You treat the false accusation or the incorrect fact not as a threat to your identity, but as a passing weather event. It is raining. You do not argue with the rain. You simply put up an umbrella or you get wet. But you do not scream at the clouds. There is a fundamental asymmetry in most conflicts. You're often bringing logic to a gunfight while the other person is bringing unhealed trauma, insecurity, or blind ideology. Seneca wrote extensively on anger, describing it as a temporary madness. When you try to use reason against a person in the grip of an emotion, you are trying to use a scalpel to stop a landslide. It is the wrong tool for the job. The person who pretends to lose understands the physics of this interaction. They know that offering resistance only increases the pressure. Think of it like a Chinese finger trap. The harder you pull to get your finger out, the tighter the weave becomes. The only way to release the trap is to push in, to go with the force, to slacken the tension. When you concede a point that doesn't matter, or when you allow someone to have the last word, you are pushing into the trap. You are creating slack. In that space of non-resistance, the other person often loses their momentum. They were bracing for a fight, and you gave them thin air. They stumble, and in that stumble, sometimes clarity can finally enter the room. But even if it doesn't, you have saved yourself the exhaustion of the struggle. You have conserved your resources for battles that actually impact your life, rather than battles that merely impact your ego. This leads us to the most difficult part of this practice, the acceptance of being underestimated. The Greek term Autarkeia translates roughly to self-sufficiency. In the Stoic context, it means possessing a mind that is satisfied with its own verdict. If you pretend to lose an argument, or if you refuse to correct a wrong assumption about yourself, people will leave that interaction thinking they are superior to you. They will think they won. They might even pity you. Can you sit with that? This is the litmus test of true confidence. A weak man needs everyone to know he is strong. A strong man is indifferent to whether others think he is weak. It is a specific kind of agony to let a lie stand when you have the truth in your pocket. It burns. But that burning is the death of the ego. It is the forging of a character that no longer requires applause to stand upright. The smart person allows the other party to walk away with the trophy because they know the trophy is made of plastic. They understand that the truth does not require a defense team to remain true. 2 + 2 = 4, regardless of how loudly someone screams that it is 5. You do not need to shout 4 back at them. You can simply know it and go about your business. Finally, consider the concept of mental contamination. Every time you engage in a petty argument, you're inviting the other person's chaos into your sanctuary. You're downloading their disordered thinking, their anxiety, and their aggression into your own operating system. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to not be stained by the world. When you feign defeat, you're engaging in a form of quarantine. You are sealing the airlock. By saying, "Let's agree to disagree," or simply staying silent, you are preventing the infection from spreading. You are acknowledging that while you cannot control the noise of the world, you have absolute authority over the noise in your head. The moment you argue back, you have let them in. You have given them rent-free space in your psyche. To lose the argument is to evict the tenant. However, we must be careful not to romanticize this. Choosing this path, the path of the strategic loss, is a lonely road. It does not bring you glory. It does not bring you the rush of high fives or the satisfaction of a public dunk. It creates distance. When you stop playing the game of validation, you may find that you have less in common with the people around you. You may find that relationships which were based on bickering and power struggles suddenly dissolve because you are no longer holding up your end of the rope. You will be misunderstood. You will be thought of as passive or perhaps even dull. But ask yourself, what is the alternative? To spend your brief flickering existence as a lawyer for a client who is already guilty. To scream into the void, hoping the void screams back an apology. There is a quiet power in letting the world be wrong about you. There is a deep resonant silence that comes when you stop trying to convince people of your value. The next time you feel the heat rise in your chest, the next time the trap snaps shut, and you feel the urge to prove them wrong, look at them. Really look at them. See the fear behind their anger. See the fragility behind their certainty. Then take a breath. Drop the rope and let them have the victory. You have a war to win inside yourself, and you cannot fight it if you are too busy fighting everyone else.